Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoded, the place where we turn corporate jargon into plain English. Today we're diving into a report from Centrus Energy. It's about their annual meeting, and while that might sound boring, trust me, there's some interesting stuff in here about who's in charge and how they're getting paid. Think of it as a peek behind the curtain of a nuclear fuel company. Before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where you can discuss these filings with other smart people. So this report is like a recap of what happened at Centrus Energy's annual meeting in June of 2025. Basically, they held a vote on some important issues. The filing outlines the three main things the stockholders, that's the people who own shares in the company, voted on. It includes who got elected to the board of directors, how they feel about the company's executive pay, and who will be their auditor. It also tells us how many shares were eligible to vote and how many actually showed up. Apparently, about 69% of the shares were represented either in person, 9% of the shares were represented either in person or by proxy. That's a pretty good turnout, meaning most important shareholders cared about the meeting. First up is the election of directors. These are the people who oversee the company's strategy and performance. Stockholders voted for 7 directors to sit on the board until the next meeting. The report lists each nominee and how many votes they got. For example, Kirkland Donald got about 5.7 million for votes and about 500,000 withheld. Withheld votes in this case means people didn't necessarily vote against him, but they didn't actively support him either. There were also nearly 5 million broker non-votes. These are shares held by brokers who didn't get instructions from their clients on how to vote, so they didn't vote at all on this proposal. But spoiler alert, all 7 nominees got elected. Next, there's what they call a say-on-pay vote. This is where stockholders get to give their opinion on how much the company's executives are being paid. It's not binding, meaning the board doesn't have to change anything based on the vote, but it sends a message. In this case, about 5.6 million votes were in favor of the executive compensation, while about 390,000 were against. About 230,000 people abstained, while about 5 million broker non-votes were cast. So while the 4 votes won out, there were still a significant number of people who weren't thrilled with the executive pay packages, but the shareholders overall signaled that they are mostly happy with it. Finally, the stockholders voted to ratify, meaning approve, the appointment of Deloitte & Touche as the company's independent auditors for 2025. Auditors are important because they check the company's financial statements to make sure everything is accurate and above board. This one passed by a landslide with almost 11 million votes in favour, about 28,000 against, and about 26,000 abstaining. No broker non-votes this time. So Deloitte & Touche got the job. Now, what does all of this mean? Well, it tells us a few things. First, the company seems to have a pretty stable leadership team, since all the director nominees were elected. Second, while most stockholders are okay with how the executives are being paid, there's a noticeable minority who aren't happy about it. That could be something to watch out for in the future. Third, the stockholders overwhelmingly trust Deloitte & Touche to do a good job as the company's auditors, which is important for maintaining investor confidence. Also, this entire meeting did not seem to produce any real surprises given the vote counts. Centrus Energy is in a unique position. They're one of the few companies in the US that can enrich uranium, which is a key step in producing nuclear fuel. This gives them a strategic advantage, especially with the growing interest in nuclear power as a cleaner energy source. However, they also face risks. The nuclear industry is heavily regulated, and any changes in government policy could have a big impact on their business. They also compete with companies in other countries like Russia and China who may have lower costs. In terms of opportunities, Centrus could benefit from increased demand for nuclear fuel as more countries look to nuclear fuel, as more countries look to nuclear power to reduce their carbon emissions. They could also expand their services to include things like decommissioning old nuclear plants. Overall, Centrus seems to be on a solid path, but they need to carefully manage the risks and capitalize on the opportunities in front of them. That's our breakdown of Centrus Energy's annual meeting filing. What's your take on these events and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of corporate filings. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.